My name is Kate, and I'm a naturopathic physician and acupuncturist at Ripple Wellness over in Washougal, Washington. We are, if you've never been to Ripple or don't know about us, we're a multidisciplinary clinic located in Washougal, as I mentioned, and we offer naturopathic medicine, acupuncture, massage, mental health therapy, yoga therapy, and nutrition. I'm sure there's something else I'm forgetting, but quite a few things. So if you haven't seen us, you should come on over. So tonight, as I mentioned, we're going to be talking about facial gua sha. And I'm be very curious as I'm kind of doing a little intro for those of you who are here, if you would maybe just even drop a comment in the chat. What brought you to facial gua sha? Are you interested in the aspect of like anti-aging and beautification? Are you interested in muscle tension, relief, or something different? I'd just be curious to know what brought you here tonight. So without further ado, I'm going to share my screen. But for those of you who may have heard, I have a really old 19-year-old cat who likes to meow a lot. So if you hear a meowing, it's my baby. So anyway, let me get my screen up. Where are you? Oh, it says I cannot share my screen. Hold on.
Okay. So
hold on. I think I can do it.
Do you see a present there? Yep. You're present.
There it goes. There it goes. Okay. And great. Can everyone see that?
Yes.
Okay. Wonderful. Thank you, Rachel. Okay. So I'll revisit that question in just a second, but let me do a little intro on what facial gua sha is. And as Rachel said too, at the end of the presentation, there will be an allotted time for questions. So if you would just hold your questions until that time. We'll also, I'm going to be leading you through sort of a facial gua sha workout. So at that time, that would also be an okay time to ask questions. So what is gua sha? Many of you have probably had gua sha before with your Chinese medicine practitioner, or maybe from me. But gua sha comes from the Chinese word for scraping. That's what gua means. And then sha actually translates to sand. And what that refers to in that third bullet point is sort of the bruising, this pinpoint bruising that can come up when you do some scraping on the skin. And so it can be like a red color or a purple color. But what gua sha translates to is sand scraping. And the ancient Chinese kind of thought that that's what the skin looked like when you would produce a little bit of a bruise over it after scraping it. And so usually this is done with a tool, but it can also be done with your hands. But for tonight's purposes, we'll be using some type of a tool. So some reasons why you might use it, as I mentioned, a lot of the reasons that I personally use it in my practice is to relieve muscle tension and joint pain. You can also use gua sha to help bring down a fever, to promote the purpose of inflammation, which is to help relieve pain. And so what gua sha does, that bringing of the sha to the surface of that skin, that bruising, it's releasing what we would call stagnant energy. And what stagnant means in this context would be stuck. So you're sort of rubbing the surface of the skin in order to release some of that stagnation. And what might be stagnant is listed here. So either blood or lymph, or what we would call qi, which is also just the way I think of qi is just the animating force of this bag of bones. So what this life force that animates us. When you've received gua sha, usually the practitioner will use like slow, very steady strokes. Sometimes it can be a little bit more vigorous depending on the part of the body that you're trying to treat. And it can give kind of an appearance, if we're working on the face, it might give the appearance of sort of a lifted, brighter, clearer, less puffy, sort of facial enhancement overall. But in other places, it would be used to, as I mentioned, stimulate the immune system, the inflammatory response, and thereby decreasing pain and inflammation over time. So some different tools that can be used. I put some pictures of some different things that you might use. More traditionally, somebody might use a spoon. You see that spoon in there? That's a ramen spoon. I have a couple of those at my clinic. So I'm usually scraping somebody. And what we like about a spoon is the edges. So we're kind of getting up on the edge of the spoon and using that kind of nice, soft edge in order to scrape. You can use coins. You can use like the lid of a container, anything that has kind of that rounded edge. Some more modern tools though, and I'll pull out mine when I get back out of this PowerPoint presentation, but likely some of you have some today that are made of jade or rose quartz or beyond stone, which is that kind of a darker black stone that's used quite often, stainless steel, copper. So lots of different things that can be used. And really, we're just looking for like a nice rounded edge. Why people might use like a rose quartz or a jade or beyond stone is because those stones typically tend to be a little cooling to the touch and cooling in nature. And so yeah, just kind of using that as a way to reduce swelling if you are working in an area that's swollen, and that would include the face. You may notice too when a practitioner does gua sha on you, they're typically going in, they're using those strokes, as I mentioned, but they're usually quite firm. On the face, not so much, but we usually pick one direction and we stick with it. So we don't go back and forth over a spot. We either go down in one direction. So you pick up and go back to the top and scrape down and then scrape down and scrape down. So you just continue to do that or scrape up, scrape up, scrape up. So you're just always picking one direction in order to do the gua sha. So some of the things, the benefits like that we've alluded to. So physically, if we're working on the face, it can really help brighten the complexion. This is by removing that aforementioned stagnation that we were talking about. Contour and sculpt, so just kind of bringing some definition to some places, especially at the jaw line and the cheeks. We really like that. Soften some fine lines and wrinkles. I do a lot of facial gua sha for people who have TMJ, so pain kind of at the jaw, headaches, migraines, and sinus pressure. It can be really helpful for those things. And it really can help reduce puffiness in the face. Tonight we'll do a little experiment. I actually had a little bit of an allergic reaction last night, so I can use a little bit of reduction of puffiness in my face today. And in general, it can help with some of the microcirculation, as it mentions here, of the lymphatic system. And so it helps to reduce some of the puffiness under the eyes in the morning specifically. Emotionally, I really like gua sha just as kind of a grounding ritual to do either first thing in the morning or at night. It's kind of a nice way to sort of begin or start your day. And just relieving any sort of tension in general can be really great for the mindset. I always say that your physicality reflects your mentality. And of course, that is also captured in your emotionality. So any work that we do to relieve tension, whether it be starting at the mind or starting at the physicality or the emotions, all of that is beneficial for the whole being. So some things to maybe kind of keep in mind. We don't really recommend that you do gua sha over an area that has like an active rash or a sunburn. Sorry about that. Or if you are somebody who is on a blood thinner, or bruises fairly easily, you want to kind of keep in mind those things and alter your gua sha appropriately. I will definitely work on people who are on blood thinners or who have blood coagulation issues. I just do it much, much lighter. So just keep that in mind if you are somebody who bruises easily. You may notice that your skin may look a little pink or red for a few moments after the treatment, or you could bruise depending on the pressure. So you want to just be really mindful of the pressure that you're using. The last thing that I want to talk about is Botox, and I am not as a provider, I am not against Botox in any way. I find it to be very helpful for folks who have migraines. But I would recommend that if you are planning to have Botox, that you wait at least 4 weeks from your most recent injection before you start any sort of gua sha routine. And the whole thing with gua sha is, as I mentioned, the mechanism of gua sha is that we are working to relieve tension through removing stagnation. So we're trying to get qi and blood and lymph moving. And what Botox does is it actually discourages that. It actually freezes tissue in place in order to create the appearance of like more plump, younger looking skin, and or it might freeze tissue in place because a person has migraines and it can be really painful for that tissue to kind of contract and expand in certain ways that will aggravate their migraines. So some people benefit from doing both Botox and gua sha, but just wait a month at least because they do have very, very different mechanisms of action. So I wanted to just show you a picture of all of the muscles of the face, just because I don't think we really look at this view of the human body too often. There's quite a bit more, or quite a few more vessels, nerves, lymphatic tissue going through this area, but definitely these are the areas that we're going to work, and you can just see how layered it is. That big old masseter muscle kind of on the side there, and the buccinator muscle, the platysma, all of these are muscles that are responsible for helping us chew. And so definitely some of these areas can be quite sore for people. And I would just say that in general. And if you are a person who has or suffers from jaw pain, a lot of times if you see that area up above the ear, the temporalis, that area can be quite sore as well. So just wanted to give you like some general idea of what we're going to be working on today. Likewise, this of course is not a human face, but these are some of the channels that run from a Chinese medicine perspective. We have different channels that run through the body and represent different organ systems, and kind of overlapping what we just saw, the musculature, and then looking at where some of the points and the channels are on the face. We can really have a lot of therapeutic effect by working on the face and relieving tension in some of these areas. So I wanted to just show you that. Okay, I'm going to exit out of here and come back to my screen. Okay, I'm going to look at the chat really quick because I want to see what people are most interested in. Okay, wrinkles, lymphatic drainage and skin health, everything, but especially wrinkles. Okay, tension, wrinkles, head and jaw pain. Okay, somebody says I bought a tool a year ago and I never knew how to use it. Yes, jaw pain. Okay, cool. I am going to get out of. Okay, stop presenting there. Great. Sorry, y'all. I don't know how to use Google Meet, apparently. Okay. All right. So a couple of other things that I want to mention before we do our gua sha workout. you'll see a lot of people on Instagram and YouTube and TikTok, and they're all talking about lymphatic drainage versus gua sha. And so I just wanted to make a big distinction here so that I hear a lot of people go, these Chinese medicine people are doing it wrong. And that's yes and no. And here's why. If we are purely looking at the lymphatic system and we're not looking at any other system, the lymph is very unique in the body because there aren't a lot of lymphatics located in the brain and in the face. There are some, but there's not a lot. Well, where you'll find the major catchment or collection of lymphatics is underneath in the throat here. And you probably felt these things like when you've been sick, like some swelling in these little lymph nodes underneath the tongue. So that's a major drainage spot for the head and brain. So this is where it drains into, but even further down kind of at the collarbone, where our lymph dumps into, no matter where it's coming from, if it's the arms, it's the legs, it all eventually makes its way back to the vessels that come over the heart because it goes into cardiac circulation eventually, our lymph. And so when you hear anybody talk about lymphatic work, they're talking about getting that fluid returned back to the center of the body right here, because it all dumps, whether it's from the feet or from the head or from the hands, it's all coming back here and dumping back into the heart, which recirculates it. And what it is, what lymph is junk. It's metabolic waste. It's stuff that our body is trying to get rid of. Then it's also a lot of water. And water is a huge component of our blood. And so it needs to go back into our blood. So a huge collection of lymph gets kind of filtered out. But in the lymph is water and waste. And so we're constantly trying to circulate that. So when we say lymph, that's what we're talking about. And so people who are working on the face and working on anti-aging, if they're doing some sort of lymphatic work, they're going to start and end here. And so tonight we'll kind of reflect that. We'll do some lymphatic work and we're going to do the gua sha. So we'll combine both things. So when we say gua sha, we don't necessarily always take into account the lymphatics. We might just be using a spoon and getting into a spot that really hurts. Some of you might have had this done by me before and kind of just really getting in there and relieving the tension. So it's kind of like spot work over a place that is tender, not taking into account that we're trying to drain lightly into this lymphatic area. The other part about lymph is that it is very sensitive. And so if you press too hard over an area, you, for a temporary amount of time, will suppress lymphatic flow. So if you go deeper into these muscle groups, you're going to really, the lymph doesn't move as quickly. But if you work lightly over an area, say with your hands, like the pressure of a nickel, that's when you get into doing really good lymphatic work. So we're going to do kind of a hybrid tonight. We'll go a little bit deeper than that. But I just wanted you to be aware when you hear these people talk about lymphatic work versus gua sha and muscle tension, if we're working muscle tension, we're not necessarily doing a lot of lymph drainage. So I just wanted to make that really clear. But we're definitely going to go in an order that would encourage better lymphatic flow, which means that we'll open up the chest first and then do the face, and then we'll work our way back down to the chest. So, yeah. Let's see. So the first thing, if you haven't already, pick up your tools. If you want to put yourself on screen so we can do this together, that's great. If you don't, that's okay. I have different tools I'm going to show you while people are getting ready. But another thing that is really good to do before you do a facial gua sha routine is cleanse your face. So if you haven't done that, go cleanse your face. I pre-cleansed. I am going to just put on a little headband and keep my hair out of the way. You want to get your hair out of the way, pin it back, whatever you want to do. So I suggest cleansing your face, cleansing your tool. Of course, I pre-did that. So, but some different tools that I have would be this one, which probably this toothed edge will be a little bit better for the routine that we're going to be doing today. But like I said, you could use your hands. You could use, I've got another like rose quartz tool like this that I like quite a bit just for getting some angles, like things like that. I definitely use a spoon sometimes. I had another one that is not here, but those are some different tools that can be used. I also have some little facial cups that you can also get. So these are really fun. So I have lots of little tools and trinkets, and we can talk about some of these after we do a little workout. If you've cleansed, what I recommend is, or once you're done cleansing, is getting an oil you like on the skin. And so any type of oil that works well with your skin is great. I am going to be using this French lavender, like in a olive oil. But really good oils would be like jojoba oil, almond oil, anything that is there's like hypoallergenic lotion that you can use, any combination of those things that work well for your skin, because right, we all have different skin tones, and I tend to run more dry, so I'm going to my skin, so I'm going to use like something that's pretty oily. But for you, if you're really already oily, you might not need a lot. So I'm just going to put, am I frozen? No, okay. I look frozen to myself, so that's anyway. So go ahead and lightly add some oil to your face and to your neckline. And I would do some too to the back of your neck. And it doesn't have to be super thick. Just get on kind of a light pat in these places. Okay. Is everybody good? Everybody got your oil on, your skin cleansed, all of those things? Okay. Yes. All right. I'm just reading the chat a little bit too. If you want to come on screen and share with me, kind of show me what your tool is, that's cool. If you want to just not, that's okay too. So the first thing that I like to do is start at the chest. And so you want to find your collarbone on either side. And for today's purposes, let's just do one side. And then your assignment after this is over is to do the other side on your own. And maybe you want to wait until the recording comes so you can do it alongside us, and that's totally fine. But you'll maybe notice a difference from side to side. So we'll just see. Okay, so the first thing you'll want to do is find the collarbone. I'm going to go on my left side here. So you'll find your collarbone and go just below it. And then I'm going to use kind of this larger end of my toothed gua sha tool. And I'm going to start just by doing some little circles out towards my arm. So you want to go all the way out the collarbone. And I'm feeling, as I'm kind of working my way out, I'm feeling some spots that feel a little bit tender. I'm not really putting a lot of pressure, just kind of like a light to medium pressure. Do what feels good for you. And I'm going to do this 3 times. But if you have longer, you could do 3 to 6 times. It's just whatever you have time for, and it feels good for you. So I'll go all the way out, and then I come back to the head of the collarbone on this side, and I'm just doing these light superficial circles. Can everybody see that? Okay, great. So I did my third time there. And with all of these, you kind of want to hold the tool at like a 30 to 45-degree angle to the skin. So next move, I'm going to stay where I'm at, just below the collarbone, but I'm going to take the side of the gua sha tool and I'm just going to run alongside this part of my chest to help open up the chest. So I'm going to do 3 moves. And as you can see, I'm using my right hand here just as traction. So it just provides just a little bit more traction against that area. And this feels really good to me. I don't know how it feels to you. I tend to get really tight here in my pecs, so this is super helpful for me. So 3 to 5 times, like I mentioned. And the next move, we're going to take this toothed edge here. And if you don't have a tooth, that's okay. You can work kind of above the collarbone this time if you don't have something that has a tooth or an edge like this. But I like to basically straddle either side of the collarbone now with the tooth. So I'm going to, again, pull with my right hand on one side, and I'm just going to pull this out alongside my collarbone and track the collarbone. So I'm going to do 3 to 5 moves just like that. And like I mentioned, we're working this area because we're trying to open up an area for the lymph and all the metabolic waste that I was talking about to kind of drain down. So a few of these just to open up the chest. Okay, so now I like to do a little work kind of along my neck, and a good way to sort of find that spot, the sweet spot, would be to go up behind your ear on whatever side you're working, and you'll find like a little bone that protrudes underneath the ear. And I like to use that tooth again to sort of straddle. There's a muscle that attaches there, and I like to pull down on that muscle. This feels really good to me. It might feel kind of really tender to you, depending on how tight your neck is. I'm going to pull down on that side. Feels really good, and I just put a ton of lavender on my face, so it's like smelling good and feeling good. I hope everybody else is having a good experience. So we did that ear to neck, just a little bit of drainage here. So now we're ready to start kind of working on the face. So I'm going to take, again, my hand, my opposite hand with that doesn't have the tool in it, and I'm just going to use it as a little bit of traction to the other side, because this next move is that I want to kind of move up the jawline. So we call this contouring, because we're trying to shape a little bit the jaw a little bit, make it protrude a little bit more, give it more shape. So I'm going to pull. I have a little cleft in my chin, so that works really well for me. I've got a little shelf to hold on to, but I'm going to take the tooth and I'm going to pull up towards the ear on my jawline. And you might find some sticky spots here. There's definitely, for me, where kind of that masseter muscle, that chewing muscle that I was showing you before, that feels a little tender for me. So move up. And if you find a spot, you can kind of hover there. You don't have to, I wouldn't necessarily like dig into it, but you could go slow over that spot and just let the tool do the work for you. Sometimes I like to end a stroke just by like kind of vibrating the tool a little bit just to break up anything there. So we're just moving slowly over these areas with intention. So we contoured the jawline. I like to do, the next move I like to do is a little bit on the side of the mouth with the smile. So you're only going to come up, we get a lot of lines, smile lines. I do. Get a little bit of work here along the smile. So I'm just going to come up halfway from the cheek, or to the cheek, I guess, from that smile line. So just doing 3 to 5 strokes there. And then the next move that I want to do is kind of continue that motion all the way out to the ear. And this is sort of a, I always call these the jowls, but depuffing the jowls. So getting some movement of blood and lymph and chi. And it feels really great to end kind of at the ear here. So I do a little vibrating right in front of the ear when I end that stroke. Now, FYI, this is going to be a different sort of workout than if you went to see your Chinese medicine practitioner. They're going to do something a little bit different than we're doing, but this is like a self-care workout for you to do at home. So we got these. A lot of people, this next move, want to kind of lift the cheek. So this cheekbone here is where we're going to place the tool next. So you'll take the tooth and you want to kind of aim the tool up because we're lifting the cheek. So we want to encourage that lifting motion. Notice I'm still using sort of some back pressure with the other hand, but I'm just lifting. And a little bit of jostling at the end, kind of at the hairline, just feels really good to me today. So that's lifting the cheek. I did skip a couple of moves. If you're, when you look at the Gua Sha flow later, you'll see I skipped a couple moves, but I'm going to go back to this one because I really like it. So I'm going to use this pokey outie here, the larger one, and I'm going to go right next to my nose. And I'm just going to do like some really light circles near the nose. And this is kind of a nice deep release for both smile lines and then also for sinus pressure. So if you feel congested, or you're somebody who's chronically congested or just acutely for any reason, this is the control point for the nose. So it helps to kind of drain that sinus congestion. And then from here, you can just continue out with that pokey outy end along the cheekbones, just underneath it. So pull all the way out to the ear. And then I'd come back to that nose spot, underneath the cheek, all the way out to the ear. Yeah, and if you've got a cold or a sinus thing going on, this can feel really tender. So just know that that could be something. Rachel, are you having that go on? Yeah, so don't be surprised if later, if you're one of those people, if it drains a little bit, because if you've ever had somebody stick needles, acupuncture needles here, it helps encourage the sinuses to drain. So that might be something, if you've got that going on, it might just be really therapeutic for you to get in there and do that on yourself. So carving the cheekbones. And then since we carved and we came out with that pokey end, I like to then go back to the soft side of the tool and then just go over those same areas and kind of in a light stroke, just to smooth everything out. Then it was the lift the cheeks, which we already did, that move all the way up. The next thing that I like to do is bring this, how we just contoured under at the cheek. I'm going to have you bring the tool up right underneath the eye, not in the eye, of course, but just right underneath the eye. And this area is quite thin skin. And it's an area where a lot of us get bags, either from lack of sleep or from allergies, or, just something that we ate that didn't agree with us. It really shows up on the face here. So very thin skin, and you want to just be really light with it. Still at that 30 to 45 degree angle, come straight out to the hairline, right in front of the ear. So the next move would be kind of right next to where you have the crow's feet, those fun little lines that you get. And I'm still going to use that big pokey outy section of my toothed tool here. And I'm going to pull up just above where my crow's feet are. I'm going to pull up with the right hand or my opposite hand, non-tooled hand. And I'm just going to move down, 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 one direction over those crow's feet. For me, in Chinese medicine, 36 is a really sacred number. And I could go into this and I won't today, but I like to do that 36 times. Just because this area can be, a lot of us can get really wrinkled here. So it's just and it feels nice kind of over that temple region there too. Those little, call this erase the crow's feet. So then once you've got that finished, we're going to move to underneath the eye here. We're going to do those little superficial circles that we did at the nose and underneath the collarbone. We're going to start at the inside corner of the eye with the bigger tooth. And I like to pull up with my non-tooled hand just to give some traction. And then I'm just doing light circles in this area. And again, do pressure to your tolerance and what you like. More doesn't always equal better in this scenario. And in fact, if you're somebody who's really sensitive or you're wanting more of a lymphatic sort of treatment, just go really light with this. But if you do feel some areas, these are sinus points as well. Some of us get frontal headaches or frontal sinus pressure, and this is a good place to kind of linger to relieve some of that pressure. I'd be curious to know if anybody is surprised at some of the tension that they're finding, like as they make their way through here. So you get out basically to the side. Again, we're coming all the way out to the hairline with these, but 3 to 5 moves there. The next move is a lift move again. And remember, our lift moves are kind of more in the direction of up. So here we're going to lift at the eyebrows. So we're using the tooth to hug both sides of the eyebrow. And we're going to take our non-tooled hand and pull to the opposite side. So we got some traction. And then we're just going to move out towards the hairline and out and up at the end. So out and then up at the end, out and up at the end. So it just gives kind of a natural little lift there. Then the next move would be to kind of just smooth over the forehead. So because we're only doing half, start with the soft side of the tool here in the middle and go all the way up to the hairline and then over the eyebrows here, all the way out, the way out. And there we go. So we're kind of smoothing some of these forehead lines, which can feel really nice as well. Then I like to kind of retrace. So now this is a part where we've gone all the way to the top, and then we're going to go all the way back down. I just want to pause for a second and say that if you wanted to work in your scalp, that's also fair game. You can add oil kind of to your, you want to take a shower after this, but add some oil to your scalp. And then I have this cool little scalp comb that you can get in and relieve tension there. So you could keep going with this. What I find too, or I have found, and this is a new sort of territory for me, but I have found that this can also promote hair growth. So if you're somebody who is losing hair for any reason, high testosterone, low iron, low B vitamins, lots of reasons why people lose hair, thyroid problems. This is a practice that you could get into where you're rubbing your scalp to help basically relieve stagnation and promote circulation. And so that's really good for our hair follicles as well. So that's something you could do. But I'm not going to spend any time on that today. But I am going to sort of retrace some of these areas that I just went over. So, because I'm going to work my way back down. And this doesn't have, you don't have to spend a ton of time doing this. It's just kind of like a nice closing move to let your face know we're on the downward here. I like to, since we started at the front of the neck, I like to end at the back of the neck with the tool. So I will take the tool and go down the back of my neck, sort of in this. And so we'll go down 3 to 5 moves. And a lot of people are pretty tight in their neck and shoulders. And so spending some time just lingering in this can be nice. And then when you're done, you can take your hand and sort of finish this move by pulling things forward. So over those catchment sites that I was talking about. So we're kind of in beginning and ending by working sort of at the chest here. And I know that's kind of fast, but hopefully like you don't have to do all of those moves. Those are just some different moves that you can play with and come up, pick 3 or 4 or 5 of them. Not all of us have a ton of time, but if you have a few that really felt good tonight, it might be nice to just sort of incorporate those into your own little workout. So, yes. I know that was a lot of information, but does anybody have any questions? Any thoughts? Things that surprised you or?
Feel free to unmute yourselves, and if you need help, I just put in the chat and I can unmute you.
Yes, I saw that, the handout. Rachel, I don't know, is there a way that we could send out the PowerPoint with the video?
Not in the same. Well, the PowerPoint that you went. Well, okay, the PowerPoint that you went through was recorded, but the additional handouts, I'm sure that we can email if you want to send them to me. I think we could email them separately.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, there was a slide on that PowerPoint that didn't get played that is like a step-by-step
Okay.
of the moves that we did. And maybe you could look at that and combine it with the video meaning the participants. Would that work if I sent that slide? Okay. Okay. Let's see who else. I can really see the difference between the two sides. I know, me too. Anybody else see difference between the two sides? Yeah, just spending time lingering on one side, I can really see a difference. Couple people said they had some sore spots. Do all the tools do the same thing, or is one better for lymphatic drainage versus wrinkles? I would say I would stay away from a spoon, like on yourself, unless you're doing something like, digging into a jaw spot. But yes, the tool that we use tonight, or even like a rose quartz tool, that have these like tooth or lipped edges, these are more supportive for lymphatic drainage, and they're just really smooth. So I like them for working over wrinkles and kind of fine lines. So yeah, I would elect to use less like ceramic and more like jade or rose quartz, something that is really, really smooth. Yeah. Yeah, and just a couple of other fun things. I just recently got these and I love them. There's a company out there that you guys may have seen. I don't have any affiliation with them whatsoever, but I just like their products, and they have this really cool facial cupping set. You can get facial cups on Amazon too, but these are just really sweet. They're just like the ones that you can use yourself. And the way you could use these sort of in the same way. you can apply it and drag it, or you can do just like reapplying to spots and kind of working out the side of the face. And then they have this really tiny one that is adorable. But I'm still kind of in my learning stages with what's best with these. But I definitely use a lot of facial cups on patients for different things like jaw pain and sinus pressure specifically. But yeah, definitely working in this area for sinus pressure, for headaches, kind of working, especially here at the temples and at the top of the hairline. These are great spots to get in with your tools or your cups or your comb. I'm sure I'm making myself look ridiculous right now. Let's see. What else? Uh, are you familiar with a derma roller and its use? Are those kind of like those jade rollers? Yes, I've seen those. I think you put them in the freezer. So a lot of people will use the derma roller, and it looks like one of those jade rollers, but it's kind of plastic. And I think those are great because you can cool them, and they do help with like some of the, especially like the swelling or bags that people will sometimes develop underneath their eyes. So it can really help sort of drain that and brighten these areas. So how many times a week is recommended? You know what, it's really highly variable. If you're somebody who's just looking for like anti-aging and beauty, I'd say like 4 to 6 times a week, and it doesn't have to be a really long thing. You could pick like 3 to 5 moves out of that 18 move thing I just sent you and spend, 5 minutes a day, really. And make sure to do both sides unless you want to see if it's really working on one side versus the other. But yeah, I'd say like 4 to 6 times a week. And then if you're somebody who has like jaw pain, I tend to have people do that like 3 to 5 times a week, unless it's like really a day where you're super stressed out and you've been clenching all day. I would just get in there and start working these areas. But yeah. Let's see. What works best for jaw pain? Um, in terms of the tool or in terms of frequency? I would say for the tool, I do like this tool, like the jade tool, for some of the things. Okay, yeah, she's asking both. So that move that we were doing earlier where we were kind of like going up the side of the jaw, some people will really hurt in their jaw, like along the jawline here. This is where I get most of my jaw tension. Some people have it kind of up in front of the ear right here, or maybe even up into here. And this tool, you can take like the big tooth, and if you're somebody who hurts like kind of in front of the ear, this is a spot that you could gua sha. I'm feeling this a lot right now. Woo wee. Yeah. So try getting in there at these spots. And even if you don't know you have jaw pain, a lot of people have neck pain, clench their jaw and have tight jaws. So if you're a neck person, get in here and see if this is okay. I like to also take this big tooth and I'll get in kind of at the side of the hairline here and do some of those superficial circles that we were talking about. That can be really relieving for jaw pain. A lot of times jaw will radiate, like I said, up into this area. So just relieving kind of along the hairline above the ear can be really helpful. Other tools, I mean, I certainly, if I'm working on patients like at Ripple, I will take a spoon and I'll get into these areas. I see a lot of people on this call who've had me do this to them, but the spoon really helps too in this area. So this can be a really good tool. If I'm doing it myself, it's kind of feels like easier for me to control if I'm using this tooth piece. But yeah, it's I'd say a spoon works just as well. So yeah. Yeah, so those are my little tools, but let's see. If you guys have any questions, any other questions that come up, feel free to send them to me. I'm going to put my email in the chat if you would like it. And then if you are somebody who would like to hear more from Ripple, and be on our mailing list, please put your email in the chat and we'll collect that. And then we send out like a monthly newsletter about different things about acupuncture and naturopathic medicine and just our favorite health tools. So yeah, would love to include you on that if you would like. So yes. Anything else? Any other things? Somebody says my face feels great. Mine does too. Great. Well, thank you all. It was a pleasure to be with you tonight.
Oh, there's a couple questions. Where do you get these cupping things for the face?
The cupping things from the face are from this company called Wilding. Wilding, Wilding. I just put that in the chat.
And then there was another question. What about dark circles under the eyes? Any suggestions?
That is so the dark circles was that move where we were using kind of the soft side with the big tooth and coming under the eye and very lightly. Remember I said that the skin under the eyes is really thin, so you want to go light. But again, at that 30 to 45 degree angle, and just spend some time there. Somebody had mentioned that derma roller too. So that's like a cold application. I sometimes will put these in the fridge or the freezer and get them kind of cold. And then I might do some work on, because they will hold on to the cold for a little bit, but I'll do some work on that area just to help depuff those spots. There's another little tool that I like. It's by this company called Dermatology, and they make these little they're like little stickies that you can put on underneath the eye, and they have like caffeine in them and some B vitamins, so they really help reduce some of the appearance of those dark circles.
All right.
Yeah. Dermatology. Yeah.
Thanks.
All right. Let's see. Anything else? Great.
Yeah.
Well, wonderful. Thank you all so much. And thank you, Rachel, and the library.
Yeah, thank you for doing this. And thank you all for coming. It was really wonderful to see this many folks on the call. We do offer the virtual classes and programs, and it's very encouraging when we see this kind of turnout, and it's incentive for us to keep offering them. So I really appreciate you all coming and listening to Kate and learn about this. So thank you very much.